You called it an itch, but it was your spirit trying to wake up. There was no insect, no allergy, no apparent cause, just that strange, persistent, and silent sensation. A kind of agony that begins on the skin, but seems to push something from within, as if something were trying to come out. Have you ever wondered why that happens? Why it always returns? Why it appears just when your mind is restless, or when you feel something you can't quite name? That itch is not random. It's not superficial. It doesn't start in the body, it starts in the soul. Illuminated one. Your body is trying to tell you something, but you learn to ignore it. You learn to apply some cream, to pretend it's normal, to say, it'll pass. But what doesn't pass is what that sensation carries. Because God doesn't shout, He whispers. And when you don't hear Him, He allows your own body to speak on His behalf. That itch is not a problem, it's a message. And today, you're going to understand why it always shows up at the same moments, and what heaven is trying to show you, right there, on your skin. You always thought it was something external. A bit of dust, some fabric, maybe the heat. But what if I told you it doesn't start in the skin? It's the soul overflowing. The itch seems like something simple, but it comes at very specific moments. When you swallow your tears, when you feel something you don't understand, when someone touches you and something is triggered deep inside. Have you noticed how it comes from the inside out? As if something were trying to break free. The body complains, but what's really speaking is the spirit. And here's the most subtle part. Almost no one notices, because logic teaches us to look for causes on the surface. But the most important signals don't show up in tests. They appear in the invisible details. Illuminated one, your body is a living altar, and when your soul wants to speak, it lights the first discomfort. The itch is simply the most discreet language He uses. Because if you ignore it, the pain comes next, then the fatigue, then the emptiness. But the one who listens to the whisper can avoid the scream. And now that you've heard it, everything changes. You're not overreacting. You're not being too sensitive. You're not making up symptoms. What you're feeling is real. And it's not just physical. It's spiritual. Illuminated one. There is a cry manifesting in your body, but no one hears it because it makes no sound. It shows up as fatigue, insomnia, chills, itching. It shows up as discomfort in strange places, as if your soul were shifting from within. You tried to ignore it. You tried to rationalize it. You told yourself it was all in your head. But when the soul wants to move, the body can't pretend for long. That discomfort you're feeling is not a mistake. It's a calling. It's an awakening. And only those who are already being touched by something greater can feel it. You feel it because you carry something inside, something many can't even perceive, most won't even notice. But you do, because you've been activated. And now, everything that is out of alignment will begin to bother you. And do you know what that means? It means you're not lost. You're being realigned. And that also hurts. You've spent your whole life treating the signs in your body as errors, as annoyances, as flaws. But what if they were messages? What if what you called an allergy was actually a calling? Spirituality doesn't begin with visions. It begins with discomfort. Before you hear, you feel. Before God speaks, He touches. Illuminated one, your body is the first language of heaven. And that itch is not a problem, it's a code. When your skin becomes restless for no apparent reason, it's not just skin. It's as if the soul, tired of waiting for your attention, begins to push from the inside out. The body is the bridge. And God crosses that bridge when He sees you've stopped listening from within. Did you want a sign? He sent it. But He sent it in the quietest way, because He respects your choice to listen or to ignore. That's why the itch shows up where it shouldn't, at the most unexpected time, when everything seems calm, because it's the world outside that's moving. It's something within you trying to rise. The body reacts to what the soul already senses, and the soul knows you're about to go through something greater. But first, heaven needs to be sure you're paying attention. You can fool your mind for a while, but your body, never. It is the oldest map that exists. A living reflection of what you feel, what you hide, and often what you carry without even realizing it. Every symptom, every discomfort, every itch that seems to have no explanation is a silent prophecy, a mirror between soul and matter. Illuminated One, your body was designed to reveal, not to hide. That recurring itch in the same place, that pain that arises when you think of someone, that pressure you feel when you walk into certain spaces, all of it is spiritual emotion. You were taught to silence what you felt, to hide it, ignore it, resist it. But the body doesn't work that way. It remembers, it stores. And when the soul begins to move, the body responds with signals you can no longer ignore. It's not just skin, it's a bridge. It's not just a nuisance, it's a warning. It's not just a random spot, it's a sacred place where something is asking to be healed. And the more spiritually sensitive you become, the more clearly that map is revealed. Because now, your energy is expanding, and the body, which once only reacted, starts to prophesy what is yet to come. You feel before you know. Your body reveals before you understand. And when you learn to read it, you never live in the dark again. The face is the first mask, but it's also the first altar. It's where the soul tries to hide, and at the same time, cries out for help. Every expression you learn to control, every forced smile, every swallowed tear, it all stayed there, recorded, stored. And when you feel that sudden itch on your forehead, your chin, your cheeks, you can be sure it's not just skin, it's a sign. On the forehead, it might be the overload of thoughts you can't quiet, the mental pressure that tries to turn into control. On the cheeks, it might be the shame you never spoke of, or that rising emotion that gets stuck. On the chin and jaw, it's the contained anger, the swallowed silence, the tension of everything you wanted to say but never had space to. Illuminated One, the face is the place where the invisible wants to become visible. It's where your intuition makes contact, where spirituality starts to manifest as heat, pressure, or itching. You thought it was skin sensitivity, but it was soul sensitivity. And the more you resist feeling, the more your face tries to remind you of what you stopped looking at. Because when the soul is suffocating inside, it begins to push through the places where you most tried to hide. The throat is the boundary between what you feel and what you allow to be released. It's where your truth gets stuck, where emotion freezes, where the soul, out of fear, chooses silence. Illuminated One, how many times have you swallowed words that burned inside? How many times did you choose to stay quiet to keep the peace? Or simply because you believed no one would understand? The body doesn't forget. And when you silence yourself too much, it tries to remind you. That itch in your throat is not dryness or allergy. It's blockage, an energetic block carrying old memories. Moments when you wanted to speak but couldn't, or convinced yourself you didn't have the right. Sometimes, the throat burns without inflammation. It itches without reason. It tightens without explanation, because it's holding on to what should have already been said. It's not just a sensation. It's the soul trying to release what's been trapped. Unspoken words, suppressed cries, confessions stuck in your chest. And behind all of that, fear. Fear of disturbing, fear of being rejected, fear of being truly seen. But your healing begins when your voice begins to exist again. When you understand that expressing yourself is not confrontation, it's release. The throat is the channel of truth, and God didn't create you to hide what He placed inside you. The back doesn't speak, but it carries everything you never dared to say, what you endured in silence, the responsibilities you took on out of fear of disappointing others, the pain no one saw, but you carried alone. Illuminated One, your body does not forget what your mouth chose to silence. And when the itch appears on your back, especially between your shoulder blades or at the base of your spine, the message is clear. There is something there that doesn't belong, and it's not physical. The back of the body holds what you don't show, the emotional weight you've learned to call duty, the trauma you pretended to overcome, the guilt no one gave you but you claimed as your own. Every discomfort in that area is buildup, a surplus of all that has been repressed. And the itch is often just the beginning. Then comes the tension. Then the pain. Then the exhaustion. You feel as if you're carrying the world, but part of that world was never meant for you to carry. You were not made to hold what others refuse to heal. And God does not expect you to keep being strong out of obligation. The itch on your back is a warning, a call to release, to let go of what no longer belongs to you, what is already past, what was never yours to begin with. Your spirit longs for lightness. But to achieve that, it needs you to release the weight, even if only in silence. The belly feels before you understand. It senses what your mind tries to deny. Illuminated One, that itch in your abdominal area isn't just sensory, it's energetic. The abdomen is the center of your second brain, the space where your intuition lives. When something is out of place in your life, this is where the body cries out first. Even in silence, you might try to ignore it, but the knot remains. The discomfort with no clear cause, the pressure in your stomach, the heaviness, and sometimes the itches if your spirit were trying to move from within. The upper abdomen holds what you tried to swallow, avoided conversations, repressed truths, decisions you didn't want to face. The lower abdomen holds your creative force, your sexuality, your will to live, and also the blocks that prevent you from flowing. When that area itches, it is often a sign that something hasn't been digested. A situation, a relationship, a choice. You're trying to move forward, but inside, you're still stuck. And do you know what the body does when something is stagnant? It nudges, it itches, it complains. Because what needs to be released can no longer be ignored. And God even uses your belly to remind you that some pains were never meant to be carried alone. You want to move forward. You feel the calling towards something greater. But your legs feel heavy, your steps freeze. And the itch comes as a silent reminder. Something is blocking your path. Illuminated One, your legs don't just support you, they carry your mission. They respond to the direction of your soul. And when the path is out of alignment, the body feels it. Itching in your thighs may reveal the desire to move forward and the fear of leaving something behind. It could be that decision you keep postponing, that conversation you avoid, that new beginning that paralyzes you. In the knees, the signal is deeper. The knees speak of flexibility, of spiritual humility, of surrender. If they itch, if they ache, if they feel heavy, perhaps you're resisting bowing to what God is trying to show you. Perhaps you're fighting to stay in control when it's already time to trust. And the feet? They speak of your path, of grounding, of destiny. When they itch or feel uncomfortable for no clear reason, they're often saying, "You're not where you're meant to be." It's your body trying to remind you that your mission is not to stand still, but it's not to run without direction either. You don't need to rush. You need to align. Because when the soul knows the way, the body follows. But when the spirit is disconnected from its mission, the feet hesitate. And God, who sees what your eyes still cannot, begins to send quiet signs. Restless legs, sensitive feet, roads that don't flow. It may seem physical, but it's spiritual. Heaven is trying to say, you are ready, but still bound. You've spent too much time waiting for a visible sign, a clear vision, an audible answer that would solve all your doubts. But God is not a spectacle. God is subtle. He doesn't arrive with noise. He arrives through sensations, through small shifts, through touches in parts of your body that no one else notices, but you feel. Illuminated One, God doesn't shout. He touches. And He touches exactly where you've most avoided feeling. He touches where the pain disguised itself as routine, where the discomfort became part of your everyday, where your sensitivity was dismissed. He touches where you called it weakness. It is exactly where He's trying to make you strong. Do you remember that itch that woke you up out of nowhere? That discomfort that keeps returning to the same place without explanation? You called it an overreaction or a quirk, but it was God asking for inner silence so you could hear Him. Most people only recognize God when He speaks loudly, but the chosen ones feel Him when He simply touches. They sense the sign before the word, the discomfort before the answer, the itch before the revelation, Because the body of an illuminated one is a living altar, and every sacred altar sends signals. You're not losing your mind. You're being guided by a voice that doesn't need sound. God speaks through what the world ignores. The skin that tingles, the point that pulses, the area that itches. And if you learn to listen with your spirit, you'll realize He has already answered you many times. You just kept expecting the answer to come in a loud voice. But the divine chooses the most intimate frequency possible. He speaks in silence. He touches the place you didn't want to return to, because it is right there where He is about to heal. You've spent your life believing that anything uncomfortable must be fought. That discomfort was a mistake. That pain was something to eliminate. But what if what you're feeling didn't come to be battled, but to be understood? Illuminated one, that itch that came out of nowhere, that returned without cause, that appeared in a place where nothing had ever happened before it, may have come from above. It may have been a divine touch, not meant to hurt, but to awaken you. God doesn't need words to find you. He knows your body better than you do. He knows that sometimes you don't hear your soul, but you feel your body. And that's why He chooses the most sensitive pathways to manifest. The itch that seems simple may have been the point of contact between your spirit and heaven, a quiet reminder that your connection is still alive, that you still feel, still perceive, still respond. You asked for direction? He answered with subtlety. You asked for a touch? He didn't use His hand, He used a sign. And that's why the discomfort wasn't punishment, it was a code. A way of saying, I am here, but are you present within yourself? The itch you wanted to erase was the very touch you needed to embrace. Because some sensations weren't meant to be eliminated. They came to align you with something is revealed. What you're feeling comes from much further away. Illuminated one, before something touches your skin, it passes through your field. The vibrational field is like an invisible membrane that surrounds your soul. Everything you think, feel, absorb, or suppress passes through it first. When the field is clear, energy flows. But when it accumulates dense thoughts, repressed emotions, unrecognized spiritual contact, the field begins to vibrate differently, and then the body begins to speak. The itch that seems small is actually a vibrational leak, a point where your energy was touched, stressed, or overloaded. And the more sensitive you become, the faster the field manifests in the physical. You thought it was a skin irritation, but it was energetic interference. You believed it was random, but it was an exact point of friction between what you need to release and what you're still holding on to. Not everything you feel comes from you. Sometimes, what itches is the presence of something that isn't yours, a memory that never left, a gaze that stayed stuck, an energy turned uninvited. And the field, like any living system, tries to expel it. That's why it itches, pulses, feels heavy even when you're in silence. Your body isn't broken. It's protecting you. And your field is telling you it's time to let go of what no longer resonates with who you are becoming. Not every discomfort is an attack. Sometimes, it's a purification. Illuminated one, the discomfort you're feeling may not be a spiritual disturbance. It might be cleansing. Because everything that's being elevated must first be exposed. Before you're strengthened, you're warmed. And before you rise to a higher frequency, you must let go of what can't sustain it. And that process, it hurts. It itches. It burns. It irritates. The itch you feel may be your skin releasing a memory that no longer serves you. It might be the point where an old energy is being cleared. It might be your spiritual field being reconfigured to receive more light. You are not broken. You are being refined. And gold, before it shines, is tested by fire. Not with destructive pain, but with discomforts that reveal where resistance still lives. When you understand this, you'll stop trying to get rid of the symptom immediately. You'll want to ask, what is being released right now? Because the discomfort didn't come to weaken you. It came to make space for what is ready to be born. You spent days trying to understand the itch. You thought it was an allergy, dry skin, stress. But you didn't stop to consider what it was interrupting. Illuminated one, sometimes the symptom shows up at the exact moment you're getting too close to your truth. When your soul begins to align with its mission, everything that's still out of sync reacts. The itch didn't come to interrupt. It came to reveal, to show that something inside you is trying to emerge, that there's a calling pressing for space, and the body feels it. Because a spiritual mission doesn't begin with grand signs. It begins with small signals, with discomforts that seem physical but are spiritual, with pulses that begin in the field and reach the skin. The itch came to interrupt you, but not from what you were doing, from what you were ignoring. You think your mission is far away, something that will happen someday, but God is already aligning you now, and He will use whatever it takes to bring you back to your path. Because when your spiritual mission begins to call, the body becomes a radar. The place that itches may be the exact spot where your energy is stuck. It may be the space your mission hasn't yet entered. And God, in His divine precision, touches where you need to unlock. He uses discomfort to prepare the ground. He uses irritation to activate movement. He uses the itch to remind you, I'm still here, and you still have something to fulfill. It's not about the symptom, it's about the calling it carries. And now that you've seen it, you can't return to autopilot. Your body isn't just reacting to the transition involves release. The itch that seemed random is, more often than not, a point of exit, a place where what no longer belongs to your frequency begins to be cleared. When something new and elevated approaches, the old must leave. But it doesn't always go quietly. Stagnant energy stirs when it feels it's about to be removed. Forgotten emotions fight not to be left behind. Old patterns resist your evolution. And all of it is felt in the body. As weight, as pressure, as itching. You ask for clarity. You ask for lightness. You ask for direction. But before you can receive, heaven must first clear space. And clearing hurts. It hurts because it touches places you've learned to protect. It hurts because it removes what you've gotten used to carrying. It hurts because it announces that your old self cannot come with you the next cycle. That's why it feels uncomfortable. Because something inside you is being realigned, not to punish you, but to make room. You are being prepared for something greater. And the body that's sensitive temple is simply responding to the nearness of the divine. Don't fight what is leaving. Honor it, understand it, release it. Because when something big is about to arrive, the first thing God does is clear space. What you're feeling is not chaos. It's alignment in progress. Illuminated One, when heaven begins to reorganize you from within, nothing stays where it was. Old emotions rise. New sensations appear. Parts of you that were asleep begin to awaken. And all of it happens without warning, without logic, without a script. The itch that comes out of nowhere. The subtle but persistent discomfort. The feeling that something has changed, even if everything on the outside seems the same. That's not just the body. These are spiritual adjustments that begin at invisible levels. You prayed for purpose. You asked for direction. You begged for clarity. But before the answer can show up on the outside, God begins within. He pulls you out of what's familiar. He shakes loose what's been stuck. He removes the excess. He repositions your soul so it can carry the new frequency that is coming. And all of that, you feel. You feel it as physical discomfort, as unexplained sensitivity, as a restlessness that doesn't go away. But behind it all is the Holy Spirit reorganizing your most intimate structure. You are not falling apart. You are being restructured. And that reorganization is not punishment. It's care. God is aligning you with your truth. And sometimes, inner chaos is just the echo of heaven pushing you back toward your center. Allow it, trust it, and remember, every cleansing makes noise. Every reorganization causes discomfort. But only then will you be able to carry what you truly came here to live. Most people only notice the discomfort, but few notice the moment it disappears. Illuminated One, when the itch fades, something inside you has been released. It's not a coincidence. It's confirmation. The feeling that once irritated, pressured, interrupted, has now given way, and that space is sacred. The absence of the symptom is often the presence of a new state. The peace that arrives without sound. The lightness that has no explanation. The body that once pulsed with anxiety now breathes with clarity. You spent days trying to figure out what it was, trying to control it, trying to resist it, but you didn't realize that the process didn't require effort. It required surrender. The itch disappeared when you stopped fighting it, when you allowed yourself to feel, when you understood that your body wasn't broken, it was communicating. And in that moment, something within you was reorganized. Your field is clearer, your soul more aligned, your frequency higher. And even if everything looks the same on the outside, on the inside, you are no longer the same. The discomfort is gone, but it left a mark. You are now someone who listens more, who feels more, who perceives more. Now you know that the body speaks, and that God, many times, uses the silence of the skin to begin a transformation of the soul. You've been touched by something that cannot be explained, but can be recognized. And when that happens, the body stops resisting and begins to cooperate with heaven. The itch was only the beginning. The change is already done. You thought it was just a nuisance. Then you believed it was punishment. You tried to understand it as a symptom. But, illuminated one, what you felt was sacred. That itch, that pain, that strange pressure on your skin, it was a disguised altar. It was the place heaven chose to lay its touch. Because when God consecrates something, He marks it. And that mark isn't always visible. Sometimes it's a gentle burn, a warmth without cause, an itch that quietly says, "This territory now belongs to me." You're trying to get rid of what is actually being purified. You're fighting what is already in the process of redemption. God touched where it hurt, not to harm you, but to turn your pain into a point of access. And now, what you wanted to eliminate is becoming sacred. Your skin was a witness to a spiritual movement. Your body, living ground for something unseen. And that pain that once felt trivialis, become an altar. You no longer need to run or hide. What once hurt has become code. What once irritated has become silent prayer. That pain was not in vain. It was used. It was lifted. And now, what once held you back sets you free. Because an altar, illuminated one, never returns to being just an ordinary wall. And someone who has been touched no longer walks as if they haven't seen. Now that you've understood what once felt inexplicable, something has changed. You no longer feel the same. You no longer see your body with the same eyes. And this is only the beginning. Illuminated one, what you're experiencing is not just a new interpretation. It's an awakening, a code that has been activated within. And once that code turns on, nothing ever feels the same again. You begin to feel before you understand, to sense before you analyze, to perceive signs that, until yesterday, would have passed unnoticed. That itch was only the first call, but there are others, more subtle, deeper, messages the body will continue to send, signs the soul will recognize before the mind can process. In the next video, you won't just hear, you will feel, you will remember, you will know without knowing how. Because the frequency changes, and when the frequency changes, the content becomes a path. You, who made it this far, you already know. Something inside you has been reorganized. And now, you are closer to what once seemed far away. In the next video, you'll discover why the silence of the soul sometimes speaks louder than any answer, and why, when God wants to prepare you, He begins by touching what no one else can see. The journey continues, and the next sign has already begun to form.